full disclosure, you're going live on YouTube in about 2 seconds.
Keep that in mind. You're up for reelection, so.
All right. We good? Amanda?
Yes, you can begin at any time.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We will start the Finance and Personnel Committee. Today's date is August 5th, 2020. Notice has been duly posted. And we will start with item number 1, a roll call. Alderman Dan Stevens is present. Alder Diane Wolf.
Present.
Alder Jim Olson.
Present.
Other people in attendance, we have Amanda Jackson, Fred Bueller, Hope, Jared, Chief Ashbeck, City Administrator Eric, Dan Wick, Troy Goody, Katie Espenson, Mayor Kim Smith, the City Clerk Joanne, and Alder Tom Smith. And Figgy. Okay, you can go. Item 2, approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Diane. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Item 3, public input. Anybody wishing to speak? Is there anybody in the queue, Amanda?
No.
Second call for public input. Third and final call for public input. Hearing no public input is now closed. Consideration and possible action on the following items. Under finance, item 4, the 2020 Omni Center financials. Mr. Bueller.
Okay, on page 2 of the balance sheet on the back side, you'll see a deficit of $136,348.08. You'll see a less $4,000, $4,332.63 coming in. That would lower that to approximately $132,000. Normally, as we head into the prior to the pandemic, when we start heading into the summer months, we average between 12 to 13,000 per month to the Omni Center, and this is what we're getting instead. Just a point of information. Other than that, don't have a whole lot to add.
That's a big ouch. What is the will of the committee?
Motion to accept the 2020 Omni Center financials.
Second.
Motion by Diane, second by Jim to approve the financials. Any further discussion?
The only comment I wanted to make is, as you know, Dan has been working very diligently. As soon as he gets his head up to think he's going to do something, he gets pounded back down because of whatever happens.
You're talking Dan Wick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I work pretty hard too.
Dan without the dog.
So Dan Wick is still working on trying to earn some funds coming out of the Omni Center.
Thank you, Dan. I guess we need to vote on the approving the financials. All those in favor of approving the financials, say aye.
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 Aye. Financials are approved. Item 5, the 2020 general fund financials. Again, Fred.
Okay, what I do is from month to month here, I take a look at where we're at on this July report compared to where this puts us into my estimation that I did a couple months ago. Pretty much the same situation that you see there. The biggest hit is coming from the interest income, roughly about $140,000. And if I took a look at my speculation, it was around at 75,000. So we got a few months left. We got the months of July, so we got 6 months left yet to hopefully whittle down on that $140,000 intake. But the interest rates are not looking good out there at this present time. Similar situation that you've seen before. You already know how the pool is going to end out. You already know pretty close to what's going on for building permits. So there isn't a whole lot of different surprises that you already don't know.
Fred, you mentioned the interest income. That has to do with the revenues from our funds that we have. Any thoughts on if the rates are going to improve, stay the same, or get worse?
Well, when I spoke to a few of the individuals where we have funds, they don't expect any rainbow coming. So, and I can't get much lower than where they are at a 0.15%.
All right. What is the pleasure of the committee with regards to the general fund financials?
Make a motion to approve.
Second,
All right, motion by Jim, second by Diane to approve the 2020 general fund financials. Any other further comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the financials, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Financials are approved. Next item is on number 6, review and consideration of partially non-budgeted telephone system replacement at City Hall, Omni Center, and Public Works facility with potential partial reimbursement through CARES grant for COVID-related expenses. And we've seen this before at council, but Fred, can you enlighten us as to?
Sure. What is unfortunate is that I made 5 different email messages to the number that was listed. If you have any questions or concerns, did not have a single response back to any of those requests. I thought I had a possibility when I was speaking to the Department of Revenue, who informed me there was a Department of Administration that was overseeing this program. But she also came to a dead end. So this is why it's back on this agenda for the finance and personnel and on the council to decide whether to move forward on the non-budgeted portion or what you wish to do. And Jared may want to add anything he wishes as well.
Sure, I'll start just by making the motion that we approve the non-budgeted telephone system replacement at City Hall, Omni Center, and Public Works facility with potential partial reimbursement through CARES grant for COVID-related expense.
I will second that for discussion.
All right, and then did Jared want to?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this purchase, even though it's non-budgeted, it has to be done either way. I've been seeing a lot of IT tickets come through recently with phone problems coming through. It just getting to be more of an occurrence. And if we truly are possibly getting reimbursed through the COVID expenses, we need this to assist with people to work from home and to make our staff facilitate their work if they're not at their desks. So I think it's just going to help all around, and it truly does. Even if it, for whatever reason, would not get reimbursed, I think it would still help staff immensely to get this sooner than later. And the other thing I would say is we can't delay any longer, because if we delay it any longer, we will miss the window to get it installed to meet the reimbursement. So I'd like to get the project moving as quickly as we can. Thank you.
All right, and our thought is that we believe that it will be reimbursed, but the state may be overwhelmed and is not getting back to us in a timely manner. Would that be an accurate statement, Mr. Bueller?
Pretty good assumption.
Okay, yes, Diane.
Thank you, Chair. So just want to confirm, your motion, Chair, was for the $39,877.05 figure?
That is the amount to put the phones in place.
The non-budgeted.
This is the difference amount. That would come from, where would we take that if that were to fail?
That was my second question. Where is that? If it does not get approved with COVID dollars, or the CARES grant dollars, where would the money come from?
Okay, there is a note on, there's a little footnote on the bottom, 37,000 would come from Fund 207, which is the Equipment Replacement Fund, what should I say, undesignated fund balance.
Yes, okay.
And then the 2,802 would be coming from, it could possibly be because of coming from the, within one item within the IT budget.
Okay.
Chair Stevens, if I may, this is Eric.
Oh, I can't see you, Eric, but.
No, I'm not on. I'm just this mysterious voice. Again, the way that the reimbursement program works is that we do have to expend it one way or the other. So as Jared and Fred had said, the funds would have to come out of some place to be expended in the first place before we can even submit it for reimbursement. I fully support and ask for your support in moving ahead with the unbudgeted items so we can get the phone ordered and in place while we determine if it's reimbursable or not. Is there a risk that we don't get reimbursed? Yes, but we need to move forward with the phone one way or the other.
And Chair, if I could follow up briefly.
You may.
And as someone who served on technology for about 16 years, the replacement of the phone system was a hot topic for several years. And quite honestly, I'm surprised that the phone system is still up and running today. So quite frankly, whether this were to be supported or whether we get a CARES grant or not, I would be voting to support this regardless. So I will be voting in favor of this regardless of how it is funded, because it is a necessary expense. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? No, let's vote. All those in favor, do we want to specify the amount of the 39,800 or is that understood?
That's why I followed up, just to make sure that you and I were on the same page when I seconded that. So
I
that's
would think you'd want to have the motion to proceed with the purchase of a phone system for the City of Onalaska, City Hall, Omni Center, and Public Works Facility.
At a total cost of $97,125.05.
97,125.05.
Correct.
All right. I will restate the motion then as to approve the non-budgeted telephone system replacement at City Hall, Omni Center, and Public Works Facility with the potential partial reimbursement through the CARES grant for COVID-related expenses with the total cost not to exceed $97,125.05.
and I will second that.
With no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes. Item number 7, review and consideration of non-budgeted automatic flush valves and faucets at city-owned facilities with potential reimbursement through the CARES grant for COVID-related expenses. I got a feeling this is the same thing, just different items.
Yes, sir.
And
So we're looking at $48,952.46. The expenditures, at this point, we're gonna have, take it out of one location, which is the equipment replacement, and necessary, if not reimbursed by COVID, then it would be dispersed amongst a couple of different locations, of which we will get authorization for that disbursement at a later date. I feel very comfortable that this has a stronger chance, or just as strong a chance as the prior item for reimbursement.
All right, what is the will of the committee?
I move that we go forward and approve to expend the total amount of $48,952.46 per the printed agenda item 7.
Second.
Motion by Diane, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? I think it's the same discussion as the previous item. We need to do this and hopefully we get the money back. No other comments? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 7 passes. Item 8, authorization to transfer contracted legal services when needed from O'Flaherty, Heim, Birnbaum Kirchner and Curtis LTD to O'Flaherty Law LLC. This is be an Amanda thing.
Yeah, so we had received formal notice that O'Flaherty, Heim, Egan, Birnbaum, Kirschner, and Curtis is dissolving. And when a law firm dissolves, you as a client have to decide where you want your files transferred. If you want them to remain with the existing firm, essentially they go into storage, or you can choose to transfer them to a new law firm. And so O'Flaherty Law LLC would be Sean's new limited liability company as a solo practitioner.
Amanda, is there, do we have any like contracts in place, or is there any retainer? Does that automatically transfer? Or is this just a carte blanche?
It's essentially just a carte blanche authorization that we want our files to transfer to the new LLC. So we don't have a formal contract in place. We are given some pricing last year that we are being billed under. It's essentially as needed. We're simply billed for the time that we use. We don't have a retainer.
Is the pricing on the new firm, since it's still Sean, is it the same rate, hourly rate? Or
I
will-
can,
I defer to Fred on that
yes,
one.
on the way it was discussed when we were looking at going with a full-time attorney is the rate was $125 per hour on an existing issues prior to July of 2019. So any new issues, the rate will be $175 an hour. And to elaborate on that, Dan, is if the council continues to move forward on any issues that they feel they need an outside source for advice, we would also be making sure that we have the necessary insurance liability in place as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah, is this, Amanda, is this Sean in his single entirety? Okay, okay. Thank you.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we authorize the transfer of contracted legal services from O'Flaherty, Heim, Birnbaum, Kirchner, and Curtis to O'Flaherty Law LLC.
I will second that.
Okay,
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. All opposed? Dane, did you vote?
Yes.
You and
Absolutely.
Jim, you sound alike, so, okay, that passed. Item 9, authorization to approve the existing changes in part 1 and 2 of the fee structure.
I
Amanda?
can start this one. So there's two parts that we're proposing to update the fees to. So the first one is Title V, Public Safety. Some of you that were on council a few years ago remember that we made a decision a few years back that we were going to remove fees from the ordinances and keep them in a fee schedule. So as part of this ordinance recodification, we've naturally found a few fees along the way, even a few permits that wasn't done for. And so some of these are just putting them in a better format. Some of these are new fees. Chief Goody and I sat down. Most of these fall under the fire department with the exception of the permit for private alarm systems. That was an existing permit that, to be honest, no one really knew what the fee was for. So we set it at $25. It's a one-time permit fee. It's relatively low. But going through fire does quite a bit of inspection work. And I don't mean their annual inspections, I mean new construction inspections. So when a new building is being built in the city, they do quite a bit of inspection services for that. And we weren't really capturing any fees for that. And so Chief Goody and I sat down, looked at the type of inspections they do, and he can speak to that. He's on here as well. and what we thought, a fair rate was for those services. And we looked at other municipalities and what they were charging, and came up with what's proposed.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you want to handle them one at a time. I can jump to the second part, or we can talk about public safety.
Well, if Troy is available, does he have anything he wanted to add to the fire inspection fees?
No, I think Amanda did a really good job. I appreciate her working on this project with me. It was something I think that was probably overdue. We do spend a lot of time doing site inspections on new construction, and this is very much in line with what other departments are doing. And with us issuing permits, being set up to do that in our department, it'll help us track these systems and make sure they're being installed properly and tested.
Thank you, Troy. Chief? I guess we could go on, Amanda, to the second item.
Let's do that.
So Katie is on here as well, and so she can speak, I guess, more specifically to these. Part of this was our shifting from in-house inspectors to using GEC contracted services. Obviously, that has different costs and they capture different fees. And so really looking at, what they have been charging across the state, what we've been charging, and I'm going to let Katie kind of take it over from here.
Thank you, Amanda. So one of the major things that you see throughout is a re-inspection fee or a base inspection fee that previously was a $50 fee for plumbing, HVAC, and that has been increased to $85. And the reason for that is that GEC charges us $85 an hour when they do their inspection. So the intent of this fee increase is essentially to cover that service. We did increase that to electrical. So now our fees are the same across the board. Previously for plumbing and HVAC, excuse me, we were charging on the overall cost of the project. So now if you compare plumbing to HVAC to electrical, we're charging the same rate for each one of our fees. So essentially for all of our utilities, we're treating everybody the same. We're not charging plumbers different than electricians. So that's for ease of use as we go forward. So that is the reason for the change to plumbing and HVAC in particular. That's why there's so many check marks because this is a new process that we're instituting.
I will make a motion that we approve item F9 per the handout to approve the existing changes in part 1 and 2 of the fee structure as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion by Diane and second by Jim to approve the changes to the fee structure. Is there any further discussion? Do we have an estimate on what the potential difference to revenue would be from the fees?
Not immediately, no. But it should generate more than what we used to, in particular to HVAC and plumbing. GEC is actually doing all of these inspections now for the city, both on a commercial and residential basis. So this is primarily to cover their service.
Was the 30, or were we currently losing $35 every time there was a base inspection fee? Am I reading that right?
No, this is a gain of $35. Before it was a $50 flat fee that we would charge, plus the cost of the valuation of the project. These fees for plumbing and HVAC are very similar to what GEC charges their other municipalities that they work with. We are actually under some of their fees still.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All those in favor of approving the changes to part 1 and 2 of the fee structure as presented in the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Raise your heads. Passes. Item 10, options regarding the City of Onalaska Financial Advisor or underwriting of R.W. Baird. This would be a Fred thing.
As we slide into the budget process. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, level on all different levels. And I just want to put this and make sure that if there's some change or thinking of changing anything, that this is a time to put it on the table to be sure that we're all going down the same direction.
I
Oh,
I have a,
Dan, it's Eric.
yes, Eric.
Yeah, in general, we've been looking at all of our contracted partners, our service providers under our purchasing policy to make sure that we have estimates and quotes. The debt issuer, financial advisor for debt issuance is a very difficult one. To be honest, they all will roll their costs into the debt issuance itself. And so you can do an RFP and get various amounts of rates that they would roll into. Is it percentage, or is it a flat fee, or what have you? They're all out there. But if you look at the email that Bradley sent as part of the packet that way, and if you go going back to the reminder of the work that they did over the 2-year process of the debt issuances, some of which began before some of this members of this committee were even on council at this point in time. There's essential work that Baird did on our behalf that when the debt is issued, they do get paid, but the work they had is based on the insight they had of our organization. And I know they're able to roll out a financing plan for our debt issuance that was second to none. And especially how some of that debt was placed with a firm like Baird, they were able to secure that when other firms would not be able to secure that. So it's a difficult question. If you're looking for full RFP for a service provider, it's certainly something that's able to be done. But while something on the surface may be apples to apples, it really isn't. I mean, because what you're doing is you're also looking at that long-term expertise that the firm would have when it comes to issuing your debt. And Baird, and in particular Brad Vagut, certainly has that. If Brad were to retire or move on, I would absolutely say, yes, it's time to do a full RFP, because then you can see what's out there, because then you've lost that expertise. But as far as I know, he intends to still stick around. So certainly as the council, we have the policy. We do need to, in general, for our providers, look at other options. But if you chose not to do so in this case, I would not be opposed to that when it comes to issuing your debt.
Yes, Diane.
Thank you, Chair. One question, I think the only question I have at this time, Fred, would be, when was the last time we did go out for a full RFP?
Well, you see, as Eric has stated, an RFP this is totally different than an RFP. I can tell you, over the 40 years being with the city of Onalaska, prior to this, the city of Onalaska had Springstead. Some of you may or may not have heard of them.
That's a long time ago.
Actually, the individual that I still remember his name was King Forness, was our financial advisor. I can also tell you that the first years of me starting here back in 81 through 84, when we had that Springstead, the city of Onalaska went down 1, if not 2 bond ratings, simply because the financial advisor set up our debt to having what I call a balloon at the end of the 20 years. And Moody's found that very unfavorable. And of course, council members back then thought, okay, but you see what happens is Springstead was kind of putting the city in a position where that they expected you to refinance it. And since we've been with Baird, that has never been the expectation of Baird, is that at the end of 20 years, it's done. The only thing that we have done for many years here is when the interest rates considerably dropped. And as you know, this last year, it's the lowest they've ever been. Brad has never seen rates this low, but when we did a lot of refinancing and the interest rates have been very attractive, and at the end of the 20 years, they are done. So with that, since I've been here in 40 years, we've had Springstead when I was here for roughly 5 years. So the last 35 years, we've had different individuals that have been very, as Brad Vagut had stated in his document here, prior to him was another gentleman that was just as good. Vince, I think his name was. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Diane, for,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I remember when I first started serving on a committee was in the year 2000, and I've only known Brad personally. So I have to agree with Eric that if Brad were to retire, I think I would be open to a full RFP or to at least start trying to compare apples to apples. I mean, I'm always open to, and I think it's good to go ahead and take a look every 5 years or so, depending upon which industry we're looking at. But I'll go on record saying that I am comfortable moving forward with Baird at this time and staying with Baird. Thank you. As long as Brad continues with him at this point in time. Thank you.
I had, well, a few of the questions have been already answered. So my first question Diane asked, and that was answered. And I think the second question I had, I think Fred answered, and it had to do with the cost of acquiring the debt instrument, the fees or underwriting costs or closing costs. It sounds like they're factored into the proceeds. So I guess the follow-up questions that I have are, do we have any indication on how competitive those fees are? Is Baird kind of par in the industry? Are they higher? Are they lower? And then my fourth question would be, it was already answered as well. So it strikes me that it's a good idea to kind of see where your vendors stand from time to time. It's very possible that Baird is the best fit for us. The time frame before we've even looked at this is kind of larger, and I think we should from time to time just take a pulse and see where we're at. So so Jim, you being the other member, I'd be interested. What are your thoughts?
I think Brad has done a very, very quality job for the city of Onalaska. I don't have a problem with him at all. I think he's been very competitive on the rates that he's gotten us over the years, and he certainly has earned his expertise is valuable and has been valuable to the city for quite some time. So I agree with Diane.
Well, all right then. And this was just discussing options, so we don't actually need to take action on this. Would that be correct?
if you take no actions, then it will not move on to council. I mean, if you're comfortable where you are, it would be probably a good idea. So we go on record and that we continue to move forward as Robert W. Baird as our financial advisor and underwriter.
Okay.
I will make that motion that the city of Onalaska continue with RW Baird as our financial advisor or underwriter.
I'll second.
Yeah, I do think it's a good idea that we go on record.
Okay, so motion by Diane, seconded by Jim, to proceed with RW Baird. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 And I'm actually going to abstain from that, so we'll say that passes. Item 11, Gunderson Health Parking Ramp Financials for the 2020 second quarter. Brett.
Okay, the statistics pretty much speak for themselves. As you can see, I'm sure there was a period of time in which Gunderson Lutheran probably wasn't operating out there for April, May, and June. You can see the cars of 110, 63, and 68 compared to 330, 302, or 305. Just one of those situations we are in. And again, as I stated before, the city of Onalaska by the way the bond covenants were written and required that the city has, pays 1,250 or 5,000 annually to the Gunderson Lutheran parking ramp. And it's a responsibility of Gunderson Lutheran to maintain the facility to the city's expectations.
I will make a motion to approve the Gunderson Health System parking ramp financials for 2020 second quarter.
Second,
By Diane, seconded by Jim to approve the parking ramp financials. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Financials are approved, thus ending finance. Moving on to personnel. Item number 12, update from Human Resources on staff vacancies. Hope. Hope, we can't hear you.
He's muted.
I forgot I muted myself.
There she is.
The assistant fire chief, we are working on filling that position, and we are meeting with the Police and Fire Commission on Monday to discuss timeline and also review the job description and everything, which is also on the agenda tonight. The police department, we made a contingent offer. We're still waiting for them to finish the psychological. They're in school right now, so that's posed a little bit of a challenge. But we're still hoping that they would be able to potentially start in August. And due to another vacancy, we have 2 positions that we have to fill, along with the additional budgeted positions that were approved for 2020. The fire department, we just hired Peter Coppola, so he started on Monday, and so we're just down 1 firefighter with existing vacancies, and then we'll have the 3 additional positions. We have a contingent offer, and we're just waiting for the finishing of the background investigation. So we're just waiting on the applicant right now to get some last minute paperwork back to our sergeant so he can finish the background. And then we can get the psychological and physical done so that we can move forward with that recruitment and get that person hired. The administrative assistant paralegal, obviously that position's been held. The office clerical support finance. We have contacted all of the applicants that the finance director was interested in potentially hiring when we were interviewing, when we were looking at it when it was full-time, but they are not interested in part-time positions. So we are going to have to recruit again for the part-time position. The computer support specialist, MCS, is going to be handling that additional workload. And our recreation coordinator, Tyler Ketterhagen, has given us notice, and his last day will be tomorrow. So this position will also be held until budgets can be reviewed. So that's where we're at.
All right, well, thank you, Hope. I always appreciate this. Could you speak to the candidate pools on police and fire, or are they, I know sometimes there aren't pools available, but is.
The fire department still has an eligibility list. The police department, we're actually doing, starting a new recruitment. So we will be doing that next Friday, the 14th. We're going to be going to Sparta, doing a written exam, the physical agility, and then we'll be establishing yet another eligibility list for that. So that'll be the next process, is to get another eligibility list.
Thank you. Diane.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm trying to remember, was it last month's council, we voted to approve a fire and a police hire after October 1st, was it?
Yep.
So how does that work, if I may ask? Hope, is it anticipated to fill it as of October 1st, or you'll start the ball rolling as of October 1st? How does that work?
Basically, we would anticipate filling it. So the process would start likely in September for October.
Okay.
So just so that we can start the background process and then go from there. So if we start too early, then and something changes, then we cause problems with the applicant. But if we start too late, then it causes problems with trying to get somebody started. So I usually start in September so that we can get that going. So,
Good.
so the
Okay.
plan is to start that because we'll have a list for the fire department. So we can contact at the end of August, beginning of September. And then the police department, we need to establish another eligibility list. So we have no one to pull from at this point.
Okay. And if I may, Dan, a follow-up question regarding the assistant fire chief position. I see that that is next or a couple more down on the agenda.
Mhm.
So F&P will look to approve it tonight. Will our version, whatever we approve tonight, and anticipate that that will be approved at council next Tuesday, will our updated version, if any changes, will that go to police and fire on Monday, the 10th then?
Yeah, so if there's any changes that we have here, those will go to police and fire. And if they have any changes, then, so it's gonna be kind of this whole. moving
Okay.
puzzle.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure that I understood. Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
and how all the days are falling. So yeah, that works. Okay.
So I was trying to squish in all of these pieces so that we weren't holding up the recruitment process for this
Right.
position.
Right.
So that we'd get this all taken care of kind of within the short window.
Yep. Oh, I understand. Thank you. I appreciate
Tangent.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so any other questions regarding vacancies? If not, Hope, do you have a report for us?
I do. So you should have received it last month, the nice pretty color copy. So I'm hoping you'll still have that. And so I just like to continue giving you updates as to what the Human Resource Department does, and just give you a general overview of the kinds of activities that we do throughout the year. And so the introduction just kind of tells you overall what the department does and what kind of major projects that we were working on for the year. And so last year we spent a lot of time working on determining a time clock system and what system we're going to pick. And then looking at really uploading information into the system so that we could start testing it and then work on trying to implement the system. Then we also hired Amanda as our in-house attorney and a paralegal, and that person unfortunately already left. And then hiring a full-time police chief and getting the fire department to full staffing, which that has been up and down for the last year now. There was some reorganization with the Omni Center because we had the building coordinator position, if you remember, was one position, but we kept having that as a rolling kind of position opening, and we split it into two positions. And it went from the building coordinator to basically the sales manager and event coordinator, so two positions. And I think that's been fairly successful so far, other than COVID hit. And so we haven't been able to see some of the measurables with that as much. But I think so far what we have seen, we've seen some success with that. So just kind of some of the things that we've done. We did a little blurb on the electronic timekeeping system, the different systems that we were looking at, kind of the process of when we started doing things. And right now we are in the process. We've got probably half of the city or most of the city going live on it. We just have the fire department and police department remaining to get live on the system. Then on page 6, we have recruitment. And so this kind of goes over the number of employees that we have, the amount of turnover we've had in 2019. And then we kind of added employees by years of service. So you can kind of see how many employees we had with 30 plus years and so forth. So you can kind of see the number of longevity we have with the city of Onalaska. So we do have quite a few in that upper region. And then we also review a lot of applications that come in. So any applications that come in, whether they be for seasonals, whether they be for full-time or part-time positions, we do touch all of those. So all of those applications, which last year was 514, that was 31 employment positions, which means out of those 115 were hired. A lot of those are seasonal, so understanding that a lot of that is seasonal candidates, but that means we're touching all of that paperwork. And 82 of them, like I said, were seasonals, and then kind of giving you an average cost of what the recruitment is for that, and that's full-time, part-time, and seasonals. We've been able to reduce some of our costs because we don't put a lot of things in the paper, and we've been able to utilize some free services online. Compensation, just kind of going over the appraisal process and the number of employees that were evaluated, how many people received steps that were both non-represented and represented, and then who received longevity increases, and then how many were put on in performance plans. And then our benefit section kind of just breaks down the number of people with changes, additions, deletions. So when people come in, when they're hired, when they leave, and then when there's changes. So if they get married, if they get divorced, if they have an address change, all of those things are changes that we deal with in the insurance world. Workers' comp. This is one area that I really like to touch on because I feel it's really important for all the persons to kind of understand. We had 38 workers' compensation claims filed. Now that doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. It just means that we encourage our employees to file claims because we want to know what kinds of things that we're seeing. So if we need training on things, that we can make sure that we get proper training. That doesn't mean that they were all compensable claims or that they were all serious claims. You can see that 15 injuries were compensable and 2 were lost time injuries. So that meant that they lost time away from work. But if you look at the experience mod, which this determines the rate, what we get for benefits back from the insurance company and what we get charged for our insurance rates for workers' comp. Based on, and I have kind of almost a 10-year history here, the CIVMIC average is 0.98 in 2020, and City of Onalaska is 0.65. That's very unusual. So we have a lot of good employees who work safely. This isn't something reflective of Amy and I. We push hard for our employees to work safely, but this means all of our department heads, all of our employees are working hard to work safely. And so we are very proud of that fact. And we encourage people to report injuries. So you can see what our mod has been in the past and what it's been lately. So we hope this trend continues. So we're very proud of this fact. So it's something that we like to just highlight when we go through this process. Our MSDS online system is something that the city has purchased years ago and has made our life a lot easier. So when we have updates to MSDS papers and processes, and anything that they update automatically gets updated. We don't have to make copies of all this paper. The system just does it. And so that tells you right there, when we have 68 auto updates, those are things that we didn't have to make photocopies of and do something with. Our labor relations, you can see that we reviewed 31 job descriptions. We didn't do as many policies as we would have liked, but we had several employee related issues last year. So we spent a lot of time with that. But then you can also see our employee assistance program. We continue to have a very high percentage of EAP users. And when I meet with employee assistance program agents, if you will, they're very encouraged by the fact that we promote this and we highly encourage it for employees. It's a system that we pay for, and we highly encourage our employees to use it, and it's not considered punitive. It's just a benefit that we provide, and we encourage it. The fun part is the last few pages. We have a lot of pictures of our potlucks, our picnic that we had last year, our Halloween costumes, our Secret Santa, our other types of gatherings. And I couldn't do a lot of this stuff without my assistant, but you can see kind of the fun things that we like to do. And we're working to get more and more participation with employees and to help with morale. Obviously, this year's been kind of a challenging year, but anything that we can do to try to assist with that, that's kind of part of our job as well. So that's kind of our annual report, so you can kind of see what HR does in a nutshell.
Thank you. Hope.
Thank you very much, Hope.
Thank you. Fred got his hand up.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what put in perspective the dollar amount in reference to the mod for workers' comp. In 2019, our premium would have been $203,275. With that mod rate, the city paid $119,000. To put in perspective, the dollar savings because of the very good mod
Wow.
rate.
Excellent.
Thank you, Fred, because I don't have those dollars in front of me, so I appreciate that.
No, I have some experience with that, and I'm really surprised that that's the work comp rate. And for, you know, we've got police officers and firefighters and people building roads and stuff like that. There's a lot. I mean, that's a rate that is comparable to people that sit and work all day in an office. And we have some people that are dealing with some large items that move around a lot and could be dangerous. So that's nice to see. But
Very commendable. Yeah.
And that's, like I said, that's because our department heads buy newer equipment. They try to find safety equipment. They care about the safety of their staff, and our employees want to make sure that they are working safely. So
Safety first.
training that we do.
okay, well, that's not all you do. Sometimes you do other things like item 14. We can talk about the assistant fire chief job description change.
Yes. So Troy had gone through and made some changes, and then I went through and made a lot more. So when I went through the job description, I kind of looked at the assistant police chief as well. And then I also looked at some of the changes that we'd already made with the fire chief so that I could kind of get those in line and have some of those things kind of very similar to what we already had in place. And so some of the changes that we have, particularly in the essential job functions, I pulled from both the fire chief and kind of the assistant police chief, so that they were very similar in the structure and what the fire chief has, because in the absence of the fire chief, the assistant fire chief also has to step up and do the fire chief's duties. So there's things that aren't exactly the same, but there's things that are similar. And like I said, I went kind of looked at both of those and tried to mirror some of those things so they were somewhat similar. And then crossed off a couple things just because I combined them with some other items. So it may look like I added a whole bunch of stuff in one area and then crossed off a bunch of stuff in another area, but I really tried to combine those in other sections or put those tasks in other areas. The knowledge, skills, and abilities I felt was missing a lot of the functions of really what the chief and the assistant chief really need, which is, I mean, ultimately they need to know how to handle fires, and they need to understand the techniques behind it, and they need to have the knowledge behind it. Just as though a firefighter does, they have to teach the firefighters and they have to understand the training behind it. So I really kind of pulled a lot of that also from some of the firefighters, some of the chiefs, some of the those kinds of things, and just pulled that information from there. I didn't do a lot of changes in the training experience and other requirements. I moved the preference for up front instead of at the end. And then we just felt the preference for successful completion of the executive fire program. Instead of having that, we really have not been able to send people to the academy for the last few years, particularly for the lieutenants, to complete this. And so we didn't feel that it was fair to make that a requirement, particularly for the assistant chief. And so there also wasn't a valid driver's license included on there. And then the residency requirement, that's also part of the job policy that we have, that I felt really should be included as well in the job description. And then we've been updating the physical requirements on all of the job descriptions as we go through here, to kind of include that manual dexterity, physical effort, and working conditions. So I kind of cleaned that up a little bit and kind of looked at the similar to the fire chief's job description as well. So hopefully I caught as many things as I possibly could in here, to really encompass all of the areas that I think that we need. But I think I really didn't change any of the grade or anything else with the position. I felt that was basically the same as what it should be.
I will make a motion to approve the assistant fire chief job description as presented in our packet.
Jim, I didn't hear you. Did you second that?
Yes.
Motion by Diane, seconded by Jim to approve the changes to the assistant fire chief job description. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. Item 15, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn at 9:16.
Second.
Motion by Diane, seconded to adjourn at 9:16 PM. We could talk about it or we could just vote.
Vote.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.